they are really documents that help us to understand the point of view of the Mesoamerican people. And thankfully, some of the documents survive. So we will see now these documents. I don't know if you can see my screen now. Can you see?
No, not yet, Angélica.
Okay, just give me a second to share my screen. Here we go. Can you see now?
Yes, yes, it's coming. There we are. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Well, so as I was telling you, the codices are the books of the ancient Mesoamerican people. They are the best way to know about their history and also their religious point of view. The majority of them, unfortunately, were destroyed during the Spanish conquest because the Spanish assumed that the majority of the information that was held in these books was in relationship with the devil, or was considered not right, was considered basically part of idolatry. But hopefully some of the documents are still nowadays preserved in collections around the world. One of the most important collections is the British collection of Codex. And the different institutions have held and preserved these documents. That gives us the opportunity to know more about the way of thinking of the Native American people. So first of all, I want to say that Codex, normally, well, the word in Nahuatl that has been used to describe the books was amochtli, and they preserve knowledge completely for different sources of information. For instance, the religion, tribute, it was also a book of the dreams, divination, and it was very important, the count of the days. There are different kind of books. Some of them are related to historical events, and some of them are related to religious beliefs, basically to reflect rituals and predictions about some days. Also, they have astronomic information. So the persons that were in charge of creating these documents were the Tlaquiloque, and at the same time they were Tlamatinime. That means that they were painters or writers, because it was not at that moment they didn't divide as we do in the Western culture, painting and writing. So for them it was an art altogether, and it implicated that you could paint in different kind of media. But in this particular case, it was in some deer skin or animal skin, or it could be in bark paper. And Tlamatinime means that they were wise people. They have the knowledge, they pass it, and they were the persons in charge to paint and write these characters and knew all about the history that they want to transmit. Also, this knowledge was considered clearly in Tlapali, that is black and red, that is a difference, or is two concepts put together to reflect the source that they use, the ink, but also it means knowledge. And Tlaquiloli was all an art that was made by specialized people. So this knowledge was preserved by the elite and was known by the elites. So it was very important to them to preserve these documents. As I say, unfortunately, when the Spanish arrived, most of the documents were destroyed. The documents were made in animal skin, as I mentioned before, in agave or amate paper. Some of them are lienzos that they were made in cotton cloth, and the majority of the pigments are mineral or also organic pigments. So it depends in the document. And these documents were preserved by these wise men and wise people. And unfortunately, during the Spanish conquest, as I say, they were looted or they were burned. In the case of the codices in the UK, or these books in the UK, we have a very important collection of documents. It's not like a big collection, like thousands of documents, but it's an important collection, and I recommend you to read if you want to know exactly the collection and you want to know more about it in detail, because this is just an introduction. I recommend you the book of Gordon Brotherson, and it's called Painted Books from Mexico. And in that is the codices in the UK collection, and he introduced you to all these documents in detail. In this conference, what I would like to talk about is how and when did the codices arrive to the United Kingdom, and the information that these codices or books hold. So it is a very complex situation, and normally it is not known in all the cases how did the books arrive to the United Kingdom. We will see the individual examples, and in some cases we will know exactly how they arrive, or in some cases it's still a debate, it's still a problem to know, and it's something that still is on the research. So the examples that I'm going to introduce you to are the Mixtec Codex that are from a region in Oaxaca, Mexico, the Divinatory Codex that form part of a wider group called the Borgia group, and Aztec Codices, particularly the Codex Mendoza, that is very important in order to know and understand the Aztec way of life before and after the conquest. So in the case of the Mixtec Codex, we're talking that are codex that belong to a region in Oaxaca, Mexico, that is called the Mixteca. So these codices were made in different towns by different families. And the importance of them is that they let us know about the political alliance that they hold to keep power. Also, the way that they integrate this alliance, for instance, through marriages, and sometimes through conquest. So that is the importance of this codex of the Mixteca. And the collection that we have in the UK basically is very important because the majority of these documents are pre-Hispanic. That means that they were made before the Spanish conquest. The codex that were made during the Spanish conquest obviously are related to the interests of the people that paint them. But also, as we will see, they were codex or codices that were made after the Spanish conquest. And the majority of these codex made after the Spanish conquest want to achieve different things. For instance, they want to inform the Spanish about the way of life of the persons of a particular town, or also they were made with the aim of justify the rights of a particular land. So a family maybe created a document in order to let know the Spanish authorities that they have the rights to possess that land, or they have a claim. So that is the more than anything the post-Hispanic codices. And the pre-Hispanic codices were a way of justification of lineage of people of different places in order to keep power. So one of the most important documents that we have in England is the Codex Nuttall that is in the British Library in London. No? And the Bodleian Library in Oxford has very important manuscripts too, including from this region, including the Codex Spotlight, the Codex Selden, and the Selden Roll, that I won't go into that last document. I'm gonna focus more in the pre-Hispanic, or the ones that have really like a pre-Hispanic style. No, so I will talk first about the Codex Nuttall, because the Codex Nuttall is really important to understand the Mixtec way of thinking, the Mixtec alliances, and the characters that have power in that region. So the document has been studied by different persons, but in general, it could be dated more or less in the 14th century, even though the stories that the Codex is telling us are around the 11th and the 12th century. So that means that someone in the 14th century, or a group of important families, decide to talk about their past, and obviously they want to legitimate interests that they have at that particular moment. No? So this codex is made in deer skin and is painted in both sides. Originally, it's very interesting how it came to England, because it's a very unknown period of this codex. So we don't know exactly at what time and for what reason it left Mexico. So what we know is really that in the 19th century, an historian located the codex in the convent of San Marco, that was a Dominican convent in Florence. So after he said that he found this document in 1854, then he passed the information to a very important person, a very important English person called John Temple Leader. He was a politician, an American, and he was really passionate about antiquities and ancient buildings particularly. So his interest in buildings was so important that he renovated some buildings in Florence where he was living at the end of his life. And he had an important friend also that was Robert Curson, because he was the 14th Baron of Baron Sauchet, and he knew that his friend was really passionate about antiquities and particularly ancient books. So he decided to send that document to his friend Robert Curson, and in 1859 the codex was in the hands of Robert Curson, and obviously it passed his collection after his death to his relative that gave the codex to the British Museum in order that they could preserve it. So by 1917, the British Museum have the right to have these documents. So what will happen next is very important because, sorry, sorry, I can't hear noises. Please turn off your microphone if that's possible. Thank you. Okay, so this codex passed into the hands of this person, Curson, and then to the museum. And it would be very important because it holds so much information about the mystics. So the important thing is that the document in reality is a codex, but it's in reality two different documents. One side is about one topic, and the other one is a complementary topic made maybe in different time. So what we have is that the side to the reverse is the life of a very important person from the Mixtec region that was Eight Deer Jaguar Claw, and it's all about his life. And it finished not with his death, it finished with his last conquest and with a sacrifice of his enemies. So he is represented as the Lord of Tilantongo, and it represented his conquest. And the observed side is more about different histories around Tilantongo and Teozacualco, and it was painted later according to research of Manuel Germán Lejarazu. So that means that the codex were not just documents that keep one history, so sometimes they could be, as we will say, recycled, and some information could be deleted or added after or manipulated by the persons that were interested in change history or have some claims about their lineage and their right to be in power. So the researchers are there are different researchers in the Mixtec Codex, but after the codex was part of the collection of Curson, and then it passed to the British Museum, a very important researcher called Celia Nuttall knew about it and was one of the first persons to get in touch with the collector, and she published a facsimile and a study. And this is very important, and that's the reason the codex is known as Sauchet Nuttall. So is the owner, Sauchet, and Nuttall, the researcher. And this lady really achieved a lot of understanding in the material and could identify the region and could identify some of the characters and the characteristics of this document. That is the reason, as you will see in this brief presentation, that the majority of the documents that I'm talking about have names that are European. So we don't know exactly how to name it. Nowadays, there are important proposals from Martin Jarsen and Aurora Perez Jimenez to rename these documents and give them like a more native name, a name that is more related to the places that they were painted. unfortunately, the majority of the historiography and the majority of the researchers are still using the names that belong to the persons that have the documents or the persons that collect the documents. So it's a difficult thing to change. It's beginning to happen, but I'm using the names that are the most well-known. That's the reason I'm using still the names that are the owners, no? So after Celia Nuttall made a facsimile of the Codex, Alfonso Caso, a Mexican archaeologist, got involved in the study of the Mixtec documents, codices, not just the Nuttall, also other part of the collection that are in different places. For instance, the Codice Vindobonensis that is now in Vienna. And they see that which kind of information the codex were about, because originally they didn't know if it was an astronomic events that were related to, or maybe different things about gods. So they could identify that what the codex, particularly this codex, were about is characters and political characters that existed in reality and were important and powerful during a period of time between the 11th and the 12th century. So one of the important researchers that has done a lot as well done for the understanding of this codex is Martin Jansen and his wife Aurora Perez Jimenez. They have done interpretation of this codex that you could find in the Adeva Grass collection, and also a researcher called Nancy Troit, and more recently Manuel Germán Lejarazu, that has made the codex more available to the majority of people in Mexico, thanks to Arqueología Mexicana and Editorial Raíces, because now it's a facsimile that is very easy to access. It's a magazine, it's in 2 volumes, and it's easy to have access to this document. The information, as you can see, I want to put an example of which kind of information and how is the codex more or less created, is plates that tell us about the life and the different political achievements of important characters. So in this case, as you can see, we have this codex that is the Nuttall, and is the second side of the reverse side. And we have here a temple, and we will have some conventions that at the beginning were not understood, but now we know. For instance, we know in this codex that they represented a lot of marriages. Marriages were very important because thanks to that events, you could see the political alliance of different people. So in this case, we have here the parents of the great warrior that is a deer jaguar claw. In this case, how we know that they are a couple and that they are in a marriage, we have here that the 2 characters are seated in front of each other, and they are seated in a ikpali that is made of jaguar skin. So that means that they are very important people. And in this case, the sons of this marriage will have sons and a daughter. So here we have the sons. As you can see, they are represented with all the attire. They are represented as fully grown men and women, and they are appear with their calendar names. And also here we have the mother of a deer that is represented on her own, but is seated in this jaguar seat to show her importance. And she will be the wife of this person that is the father of a deer. And then we will have a lot of information about this character. A deer jaguar claw, as we can see here, is the deer, the egg deer, and the jaguar claw that is here painted, and he appears also with his warrior attire, and he will be very important character that appear creating a lot of political alliances, but also he will be recognized as a very important warrior. The majority of the codex represents his achievements as a warrior, and that's the reason we have here this arrow that is in different kind of places. There are different places, the different name of places that he conquests. So we can see that this section of the Codex was interested in representing him as a very important warrior, because maybe he didn't have, as you could see, he has brothers and sisters, different brothers and sisters, so, and different family members that could claim the throne of Tilantongo more than him. So the Codex will be focused on showing us he was a great warrior and a person that hold different rituals to achieve power. So that is the information that we have about Eidir. And also another important thing that this kind of documents show us, also apart from political achievements of different persons, is different ceremonies or rituals that have been depicted in different sources of information, not just for the Mixtec region, also for different places such as Central Mexico. One of these important rituals that are called in generally in all Mesoamerica was the cult to the Tlaquimiloli, or the cult of the sacred bundle. The sacred bundle was what made a god. It was like a way of, they used to grab different elements that create a god, like different stones or different kind of clothing, or could be also feathers. And this Tlaquimiloli, or this sacred bundle, was really important. It has a very important religious significance. So in this codex, we can see that a deer has to hold a ceremony in front of the sacred bundle to legitimize his power. And also here we see something that is a very important Mesoamerican practice, that was the perforation or the piercing of the septum. So it's very important to legitimize power and be considered a proper, we will say, king. That is not exactly the word, but we'll say a proper person in power. You have to have these ceremonies. And this document shows us, apart from the conquest and apart from the marriages and apart from the sons and daughters that different characters have, this shows us as well ritual events. It's very interesting because sometimes we want to separate history from mythology. And in Mesoamerica Codices, we can see that it's a relationship, it's not separated. Here we see a real person having a real ceremony, and also we have in the different parts of the sections, particularly in the anverse of this codex, different events that are maybe occur in mythical time, that appear as well in the Codex Vindobonensis, that are, for instance, the war against the persons that come from the sky, or the stone people, and different things. That is really a mix between the mythological and the historical. So they didn't have that conflict that sometimes we have to divide these situations. And also, this codex is interesting because shows also some practices. Here we can see again captive. We have like some kind of elements that are represented in all these documents. So we have the convention of marriage, that, as I mentioned, that is the two people facing each other. Then a list of daughters and sons, and also to portray conquest could be by a place that has an arrow that is there, like to show that the place was conquest. And also it could be represented by the warrior holding the hair of the victim, no, or the captive. And in this case as well, we have a deer captive in a person, and also we have the representations of what it has been called human sacrifice, or is also a political revenge or a political murder of the enemies. There are different ways to portray that, and here we have something that is the Gladiator Stone, as some sources call it, but it was a ritual that was in the honor of a god called Xipetotec, that consists in putting a person tied to a specific kind of a stone, and he has to face with fake weapons. As you can see, he doesn't have really weapons. He has to face real warriors. So this is interesting as well, because we can see some elements of political, what happened to the political enemies in this kind of documents. And that is what is so important to know about this Codex Nutal. It has much information than that, but this is more like to let you know a generality of the document. Also, we have other documents mixed from Mixtec origin, or from this region of Oaxaca, that is the Codex Spotlight. The Codex Spotlight is very interesting and has been found in the collection of the Bodleian Library, again in Oxford, in the 19th century. It's a debate about how is possible that this codex appeared there, and it's still unclear. There is a possibility mentioned by Eric Thompson, according to John Paul, that Eric Thompson believed that it's possible that during the conflict in the 16th century between England, or the English Empire and the Spanish Empire, it's possible that the document was looted and finished as part of the collection. It was a codex that finished in this situation in the 17th century, but we don't know exactly how it ends here, at what time exactly, in which year it left Mexico. But it's there, and it's important that this codex as well is painted before 1521. That means that it's a pre-Hispanic codex, and we will have information before the Spanish arrive and before the Spanish interference. So these documents, normally the libraries that hold them now, they are sources that you can find online where you can see the codex, so you can have a look, and there is different research that has been made in these documents also. So what is about this document? Again, we have that these Mixtec codex are very interested in genealogies. So we will see the life of different characters and different people. And also it's interesting because it has different biographies. So it's like, it's not just a biography of a person, of the life of one person, just one version. These codex complement each other. So in this Bodley Codex, we have also the life of Egdir Jaguar Claw and Lords of Tilantongo during the Spanish invasion. And we have also importance of a character called Four Winds and a genealogy of different places. This codex has the difficulty to see exactly which place was made, because it holds information about different places. So the importance is that we can compare the information, and basically what the researchers are doing, the special researchers that are in this region, is try to complement each other information and see what is really the interest of the persons that made it. So for instance, in some codices, we can see that all is about, for example, a jaguar, as we saw in the Codex Nutal. But in other codex, in other places, we see that he is a secondary character. He's not so important. So that is the way that the researchers could have to have a clue how the document was made and who made it. So they have to complement the information to each other codex. So this is an example of how it is. As you can see, there are different characters doing different things, and they are people as well sitting together. They are conquest, and also we have alliances. So this is a generality of how it is. And we will see also a very interesting codex that is here as well in England, that is the Codex Selden. The Codex Selden as well is in the Bodleian Library, and is a document made as well in leather, and is painted in just one side. The reverse section was covered, and nowadays it has been researched about which kind of information was there, because it was very difficult to see. What the researchers have found is that thanks to analysis with X-ray, they can see, and they are doing research in what it was. It was more ancient, the part that is now missed. So it's still in process. But what we have, the pages that we can see, is the story of a place that is called Añute or Jaltepec, and is the foundation of the town until 1556. The codex is important because even though it has information that is part of the colonial period, the researchers have found out that in reality it doesn't have any influence of the Spanish pictorial tradition. So it's a codex that has a lot of characteristics, or mainly characteristics of the pre-Hispanic times. And one of the characters that is very important was the lady six monkey. And this is interesting too, because we can see that in the pre-Hispanic times in the Mixtec region, the women were important and women hold a lot of power too. And they have even captives, as we can see. The lady six monkey is a lady, is reflected as a lady that is important and has a lot to do with war. She was a warrior too. So it's important to know that in order to have a better idea on how women could impact also the political life of this region. We have also something that is very important, that is the Divinatory Codices. And in the collection of, that is in Britain, two documents that are really, really special for the persons, the Mesoamericanists that love the religious, or were interested in religion, are the Codex Cloud or Codex Cloud and the Codex Mayor. These codex are different to the ones that I mentioned before, that are the Mixtec Codex, because the Mixtec Codex, as I told you, is historical. It's more about people that live in a particular place in real time, and the life and the alliance that they made. The Divinatory Codex, on the other hand, are codex that are based on the calendar, and they are based in the divination and pronostics and rituals. So this is more or less the information that they have. Actually, Tonal Powali is the count of the days or the counts of the destiny. So the codex, the Mixtec Codex, have a lot of information about names, name of places, name of individuals, and also it tells us about the times, the years, specific years that the events happen. In the Divinatory Codex, on the other hand, we will have more like the calendar displayed in different ways and creating a specific almanacs for different situations. For instance, it will be there will be almanacs that will specialize in predictions around the rainy season, or predictions around the births of people and the marriage, how a marriage will be, etc., etc. The style of these codices is something called Mixteca Pueblo style, and it means that it was a cultural phenomenon that was around Mesoamerica in general during the post-classic period. And they were made with the intention that everybody could understand what the information was about. Therefore, it's very complicated to establish which specific place was the place of origin or provenance of an individual document. So we will see that they have a repertoire of symbols, gods, and conventions that all of them join, and that will make a very more complicated to locate exactly the town that creates the document. So one of the most interesting documents that we have here as well is the Codex Cloud, that is also in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. The provenance is unknown, and it has different researchers that have proposed that it could be located possibly in the Gulf Coast of Mexico, but made by a Nahua speaker. So it could maybe be located around the area of Veracruz, where is currently Veracruz. But it's difficult to establish exactly, because it has elements that were joined for different regions. The researchers that believe that this codex was made in the coast of Mexico, not in central Mexico, is based basically in the kind of attire and the way that people are represented, and the animals that are represented that are located normally more in the coastal area. So this codex came into, it's difficult to know exactly how it came, but it was part of the collection of William Laud, and he decided to donate the codex also into the Bodleian Library. So he was a collector, and he was an archbishop, very important that during the times of Charles I, and that's the reason he decided to preserve his collection and donate it to preserve it. No, the themes in this codex are still complex to understand, as we know now, is all based in divination and cycles and predictions. And here is an example of the images that we can see. In this plate, you can see is represented the goddess of the love and the goddess of cotton, that is Tlazolteotl, and she's representing holding the materials to be for waving, and also is holding a winged snake. As we can see here is the representation of a Hecatl, the wind. Here is a snake, and the sacrificial elements, the sacrificial spines are broken. So it's a prognostic around when she was the patron of the almanac in this particular period. She has some prognostic, and the reason some researchers think about that this codex could be made was made in the coastal area is because it has representations of as well the sea. For instance, we can see here a wave, and in the wave inside we have fish, and we have also here the representation of Hecatl, that is the god of wind, and a woman that is naked and is in a position of giving birth. So there is a prognostic around what could happen to a woman that is giving birth, and the influence of the goddess Tlazolteotl and the wind during these particular days, that in reality, as we can see, we have here the calendrical days, but in reality they are not days, they are trecenas or months that are related to a particular cardinal point that is the east. Okay, so that is the information that we have about this codex. It has been studied by different specialists, and one of the most complete explanations of the content of this codex has been made also by Ferdinand Anders and Martin Jansen, and they have a facsimile explanation published by the Fondo de Cultura Económica in Mexico, where they go deeply into detail of this document. No? The Codex Feuerbari-Mayer is also part of the collection of the British collection, and is located in what is now called the Liverpool World Museum. And it's as well very, very complicated to track it in the past, track how it came to England exactly, and in which exactly year the codex left Mexico is unknown. But what we know is that this codex appeared in the collection of news about this codex appeared in the 19th century, and was part of the collection of an antiquary called Gabriel Feuerbari, and then it was bought by Joseph Meyer, and that's the reason the codex at the end finished as part of the Liverpool World Museum, and also is made in deer skin, and the provenance where was made is still unknown. And you can see, I will show you the codex in a minute. You will see that it has similarities with the colors and the drawing with the Codex Cloud, and it's possible also that it was made in a region by Nahua speakers, or a group of speakers that not just Nahuas, but with Nahua influence, maybe in a coastal region. So this codex has been studied by different researchers also. At the beginning, it was really unclear what it was about. It was a mystery. It appeared. It was a facsimile published originally that was consulted and commented by Edward Seller, that he was a great researcher in Mesoamerican studies, but he was very interested in astronomy. So he believed that the codex was just around astronomical events. Then will come an Austrian researcher called Karl Anton Novotny, and he will see the ethnographical side of it. So he will compare some images of this document with rituals that are still happening in Mexico, and he will make really an important improvement in our knowledge of the information. Also, Ferdinand Anders and Martin Jansen have a comment where they speak about the importance of Tezcatlipoca in this document, and also the importance of the mantic element or the divination in this codex. And Miguel León Portilla recently, before his unfortunate death, he prepared a facsimile with Arqueología Mexicana and Editorial Raíces, and his facsimile is very important also because he made available this information in Mexico widely. No? And he proposed that the document was around the merchants called the Pochtecas, that were a group of people that used to travel around, and they used to make exchanges of goods. And he thought that the document belonged to them. No? So we can see it's a divinatory almanac in 17th section, and this document is particularly important because show us a lot of things that were vital for the Mesoamerican people. This is the most famous page of this codex, and I suppose a lot of you have seen it in different occasions. Is the plate number 1 of the Codex Mayer, and the importance of this document is that it's a cosmogram. So, this plate is a cosmogram. So, it's the way that they understood the world. So, it's the representation of the whole world and the time, how the time and the gods are involved. So, we can see in the center of the universe, or the center of the time and the center of the world, is located Xiuhtecuhtli, the god of the fire, and he is accompanied by different characters that are a group of gods called the 9 lords of the night, or the gods of the lords of the night, or the that are different. It's a group of gods that are always associated together and accompany the days. So these Lord of the Night are associated as well also with different days. So here we have the first day of the calendar, and then we have dots that represent the other days, and then the dot finish in another calendar symbol to show that it's a trecena. So all the way around, as you can see, all the way around, as I'm showing you, is the calendar distributed, associated with this particular Lord of the Nights, and also is creating different regions of the world. We have here the place that is where the sun rises, that is the east, and here we have the west. And we have the south and the north also. So it is important because it's association of how they understood the time related to the gods, and also with sacrifice, because we have here that the god of the fire is receiving the blood of different parts of the body of Tezcatlipoca. So in some ways, it's one of the most complete images that we have of the world, of how they view the world in a spatial and time frame. So that is the importance. And here we have an example of this group of plates that are related. They were really, really mysterious at the time when Seller made his first studies, because it has, as you can see, numbers in Maya style. So we have the 5 here and 2 dots to make 7, and they are aggruppated in different ways. So some researchers were doing at the beginning, well, particularly Seller, a lot of very complicated astronomical calculations. But thanks to the studies of Karl Anton Novotny, we know now that in reality what is happening is that they are offerings that are in the honor of a deity. In this case, we have Tlahuizcalpuantecutli or Venus, and they are offerings that are happening in a particular moment of time in order that they could achieve success in different situations in life. How he knew that? Because he found that still nowadays Tlapanec people are doing these kind of offerings. They arrange different flowers or different particularly flowers or plants, and they count them. They count them and display them together in order to please the gods. So that is as well a very important way to know about rituals in the past, but also understand rituals in the present, and that is the importance of this. And this is the characters, characters that are the walkers. That these people are walking, and they are associated also, as we can see, with different days, different representation of days that are in reality trecenas, and they are associated with these merchants or pochtecas, and that is the reason these travelers made Miguel León Portilla think that it was possible that this document was originally in the hands of these merchants that traveled to a place to each other, and that is an hypothesis that is still valid, and will make it a little bit more complicated to establish exactly a town where it was made, because the document used to travel hand to hand. And before I want to show you the Aztec codices. They are different documents that belong to the Aztec culture that are holding the British collection, but one of the most important is the Codex Mendoza. The Codex Mendoza is a document that, if you are interested in the Aztecs, is vital to be consulted, because it shows you like different daily life events that happen in the Aztec times, the conquest that they achieved, also the foundation of Tenochtitlan is very important as well, in order to understand how they visualize the world. As you can see, this is similar, is like in a similar composition than the Feuer-Barimeyer, the plate number 1 that I show you, where we have at the center not the god of the fire as we have in the Feuer-Barimeyer, but we have here the representation of Tenochtitlan, and is divided the world in a quadripartite way also, no? So this codex is one of the jewels of the crown, I would say, to understand the Aztec life. We have also as well a list of tributes, the conquest, which kind of tributes were made, and it was it is very important because it explains us a lot of elements, and also it has writing in Spanish style. So this document was made to be sent to Spain and be given to Charles V. But unfortunately for the Spanish, the document was looted and went hand to hand for the different people, including André Tevet, and then it passed, it was sold to an English person that was Richard Hakluyt, and then it passed hand to hand until at the end belonged to John Selden, that donated to the Bodleian Library also at Oxford University. So this is very important, because thanks to that document we will have a better understanding of the Aztec life. So I just want to tell you also that these documents are now being digitalized, and the collection, the Mexican collection, it has been studied. There are a lot of digital research, and the museums are particularly interested in involving people from the communities. When the community, for example, the Mexican Codex, when the community is known, the British Museum is doing a lot of efforts to involve people from that communities in the research and understanding of these documents. So this is an invitation to get a deeper view. I don't have enough time to go in detail, but as you can see, in Britain is one, we have a very, very important collection that is there to be understood and to be explored, and also it has a lot of you have a lot of opportunities to check online what is happening about this collection, the digitalization process of this collection, and more importantly, research that is being done by digital humanists, where they are more in touch and more in contact, or we have more knowledge now about the materials and the process of manufacturing these documents. So just to conclude my intervention, I would like to share with you some bibliography that it could be important to you to check if you are interested, and that's it. That is all what I will say today. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much, Angélica.
Thank you very much.
We now have some time for questions. And before that, I would like to invite all of you to our lecture on Wednesday, which is precisely about digital humanities and what is being done for the study of early colonial Mexico. If you could please stop sharing your screen, Angélica. Thank you. Well, there are many congratulations, and I wonder if does anyone wish to make a question? You can either do it on the chat or you can unmute your microphone and speak directly to Angélica. A ver, profesor de idiomas, dice una pregunta. En su opinión, los códices mixtecas se utilizaban como preservación de material histórico y mitológico o tenían otro uso práctico dentro de las comunidades prehispánicas. Was there a practical use?
Sí, ¿puedo contestar en español?
Si puedes, un poquito en inglés, un poquito en español, porque la mayoría ahorita creo que sí puede.
Okay. Well, the codex, apart from being documents as we could imagine, like to have the history and have the achievements of particular lineage of people and show their genealogies, also they were considered sacred skin, so they have a value themselves as the skin of the gods. So they were not just like just a document, so they were considered also sacred. And some documents they were also used in ceremonies, so they were not just like a book as we understand now. They were considered like the sacred histories, the sacred word, and the sacred skin. And also it implicates that is represented the lords of that land, but also that is very important in these documents. You can see the ancestors, how the ancestors received power from the gods, particularly for example, in the case of the Codex Mendoza, we have a lot of representation of nine wind or Quetzalcoatl that is descending to earth with all the elements of power. So the codex itself was sacred, was very important, and was a material that was to justify power, but also has like a power in itself. I don't know if that could answer the question.
Okay. Muy bien, bueno, muchas felicitaciones de parte de Lorena Valdivia, genial presentación y explicación. Hugo, muchas gracias. Quisiera saber de qué época es el Códice Nuttall, ya que al parecer no alcanzó.
Sí. See, the Codex Nuttall is very interesting because the information that is about it has been dated, the information between the 11th and the 12th century, and the majority of the researchers agree that this is the period, but it was made centuries after. So for example, Manuel Germán Lejarazu proposed that it could be from the 14th century. So that means that someone decided to count the story of people from the past, obviously with the interest, maybe possibly, to legitimize the power at that period. So it's like talking about my grandfather, and I will make it like, wow, he was the star, he was the best, centuries after. So, but going back to specific to the question, it is difficult today exactly, but some researchers believe that it could be dated in the 14th century, maybe 15, but normally it's accepted 14.
Excellent. Angélica, I was wondering if you could show us very, very slowly how you can recognize this character, 8-deer jaguar claw.
Yeah.
You could show us the image again and tell us this is this is that.
Yeah.
Because it's a very complex type of image where there's so many signs.
Yeah, no worries. It is important actually that in this particular codex, in the Codex Notal, but in general in the Mixtec Codex, that our characters, the persons will change attire. So it's very cool because in some ways they change their clothes. They are not always represented with the same clothing. So what is the key to recognize the persons that appears in these documents? The basic way to do it is by the calendrical name. So here we have egg deer. So we can see here is the deer. And here we have the dot. I don't know, you can see because let me see the dots. That is egg deer. And let me show you another one. See, here appears with a beard, and he appears with his weaponry and painted in black, but also and obviously with a jaguar, with a jaguar helmet. And as we can see in other representations of him, he appears in a different. As you can see, he doesn't appear with the beard. No, how we know that it's him, because again appears the name and the claw, and it has elements that of a jaguar, but it's a complete outfit. So it has changed. And here, I don't know, you can see in this where is how we can know that it's him that has the septum pierced. We have here again the jaguar, sorry, the deer. The deer, we have the deer, and we have the number that is 8 deer, and the claw of the jaguar will appear more clear here. So it's a little bit, here is the deer of the claw of the jaguar, and 8 deer, ocho venado, appears his name here with the deer, venado, and the number 8. And also here appear the deer, venado, number 8. And here, as you can see, he has changed completely. Is different. He has like the beard, but it's painted in black. That is the painted that was used for religious purposes. It was a painted that was used by priests or was related to some specific rituals. But the only way to really identify him will be by his calendral name, because his outfit is changing. And it's important that his outfit is changing because it will depend in the elements of his life, or how he is holding the power. So depending on what is happening in the scene, if he is in a ritual to justify his power, if he's in a conquest, if he's doing specific things, the elements that we really identify the persons in this codex are the calendral name, and sometimes the calendral name is accompanied by, in the case of the jaguar claw that is on the top, to know exactly, it's like the complement of the name, no? Like we'll say like we'll say the last name, or it will be more like an epithet, no? That they have.
That was exactly my next question, whether it was a real name, or was it, or do you think they had a different name and this was a name that was acquired after many conquests or victories?
No, I'm very glad that you asked that, because it's very, very important to point out the name of the persons are based on the day that they were born. So it's a calendrical name. It's like, for example, calling myself the 1st of October. So 8 deer means that the day that he was born, or the day that was attributed to his birth. No, because sometimes a baby, according to Fray Bernardino de Sahagún, a baby could be born in one day, and maybe that day was not the best, so they decide to have the baptism or give the name of another day. But in reality, what we have with 8 deer is that 8 deer means the day that he was born. And the jaguar claw is a specific characteristic of his character. So in this case, he's a warrior, he's a conqueror.
Excellent. Okay. There is a question by Marisela Daniel Velasco, who says, thank you for this magnificent presentation. Is there any information regarding the materials of the clothing and helmets that the warriors wore?
Yeah, well, there is information more about the attires, about the attires that the characters hold. Anahuatl has a book related to the clothing, and also Esther Serpien has a book based on the clothing. If you wish, at the end, I will send you the specific reference of these books. And but they are not just about the Mixtec. It's like in general the clothing in different parts of Mesoamerica.
Okay, and Tony Pittman is asking, where can one acquire the facsimiles of the codices?
Where you can, oh, well, that is interesting because normally the facsimiles are quite expensive, but the Fondo de Cultura Económica of FCE has made a lot of facsimiles available. For example, depends in the individual codex. So the codex Nutal, you can have a facsimile that is a full color restoration that you can order online, and the price is very accessible. But it's a restoration. And also the Arqueología Mexicana has made the facsimile of the both sizes, and we have the facsimile version of Martin Jansen as well, and that I think that he has put in Leiden University. There is an online version of the study of the codex. But if you want to see the codex really for free and have a look, I recommend you FAMSI. That is a website that is dedicated to the Foundation of Mesoamerican Studies, the study of Mesoamerica. And in FAMSI, that is FAMSI, you can find the majority of the codex, and you can see the images, and then they suggest you some of the facsimiles. So it will depend on the codex, but you can check them online. Also, the libraries you can Google the codex of your interest, and the majority of the libraries are making them available in their own websites online.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Perhaps we can return to seeing you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Anything you might want to ask or add? I think it's a lot of information, very interesting, extremely interesting, and so we have a lot to reflect upon, and I think we are very willing to learn more, to keep learning more.
I'm going to write in the chat the name of the website that you can check the codex, the facsimiles for free. And if you want, also you can order them online, but some of them are very difficult to be honest. They have limited editions because it's so expensive to produce sometimes. So it's not so easy, but you can check them on the FAMSI website, and they are there. And also it has studies, the Mixtec Codex have a study made by John Paul that is an introduction to each of the documents.
Excellent. Yes. If there are no more questions or comments, then, well, it remains only to say thank you to all of you who have been here with us, especially to Angélica Baena.
Thanks.
And we look forward to greeting you again for the 5th and last talk of this cycle, which is going to be, do you have the exact date, Angélica?
It's in the website of the UK Mexican Art Society.
Otherwise, we will let you know in case.
It's normally every 6 weeks. So
6 weeks from today. Yeah.
I just want to, sorry, to write in the chat.
Yes, please.
The name of a book that I recommend for the clothing. That's it. If anybody is interested, you can find that book.
I think it's on the 27th of September. I just
27th of September. Okay, perfect.
So on the 27th, we'll see you again with more fascinating topics. And hold on, I'm getting some Javier Calderon is here. We're very happy to see you here, and perhaps you want to add anything, Javier? Would you like to add anything? Okay. If not, we shall welcome you hopefully on Wednesday for the Digital Humanities talk about early colonial Mexico. And on Thursday, we are having a very special experimental mise en scène of a play from the New Spain about the conversion of the last 4 kings of Tlaxcala, which is really very interesting and designed during the pandemic so that people from a theater group could continue to perform. You can register for this one, but it will be available on our YouTube and our Facebook channels. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
See you later.
I think there's one information that was not published adequately. Patricia Ana Walt, Indian Clothing Before Cortes, is the name of the book that Angélica is referring you to. Thank you all. Goodbye for now. And can we just say the usual suspects, please?
See you later. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.